I did a triathlon and a half marathon in the same week. So what's harder, a triathlon or a half marathon? And honestly, I thought I knew the answer. Because on paper, one looks a lot more intimidating, but in reality, it's not that simple. So in this video, I'm gonna break down what it's actually like to train for and race a half marathon and a triathlon. Not just the distance, but the time, the effort, the stress, the logistics, everything that goes into doing these events physically and mentally. Let's start with what each one actually is. A half marathon, pretty simple. 13.1 miles, all running. You get dropped off at the start line, you run 13 miles, you're done at the end. No gear changes, no transitions, you just run 13 miles. Not just 13 miles, but you get what I'm saying. Now a triathlon. At the Olympic distance, it's a 1 mile swim, 24 mile bike, and a 6.2 mile run. Back to back to back. Because at that point, it's not just the fitness. It's the coordination, it's pacing yourself, knowing that after the swim you gotta bike and run. After the bike you still have to run. All these different things to keep in mind while you're doing the race. If you've been following along with my Zero to Triathlon journey, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications on. I've got a lot coming. I've got a big announcement coming up here soon. And if you have done a half marathon, a triathlon, let me know your time in the comments down below. Now the training difference for the two, this is where things really start to change. Training for a half marathon, it's pretty straightforward. You run a lot. You build your mileage up, you do some speed work, you do some tempo work, some anaerobic training, long runs at low heart rate, and you continue to build, and grow until race day. It's simple, but it's definitely not easy. Because running beats you up. Your joints feel tight, your legs get sore, your hips hurt, your knees hurt, your ankles hurt. You put a lot of stress on your limbs and joints to complete that long run and that time goal that you want to achieve for your half marathon. When you're doing triathlon training, you have to combine 3 different sports. You're doing swim days, bike days, run days, and some days you're even doing all 3. You'll go from a swim straight into a bike into a run, or just a bike into a run. And doing all these different sports and training can be a lot more fun, but it also is chaotic. The biggest difference I've noticed in the training is that training for a triathlon is a lot less repetitive, but also is way more time consuming and can be a lot more draining. The next thing I want to talk about is time commitment, because if you're working a job like me, this matters a lot, because you need to manage social life, family, friends, all while training for this event. When you're training for a half marathon, you usually want to try to run anywhere between 3 and 5 times a week, taking up about 4 to 8 hours probably. These runs can range from 20-minute runs, quick recovery runs, to 2-hour long runs. With the triathlon time commitment, you're usually training at least 6 to 8 hours at the minimum, depending on how serious you want to take it. And that time commitment is not just the workouts. You got to consider driving to the pool, getting your bike set up, driving to where you want to bike. You got to practice your transition, practice your fueling and electrolyte consumption on the bike. And all that time adds up pretty fast. So even if the workouts feel easier from day to day, the lifestyle can be much harder to maintain. One difference that I've found training for a half marathon and triathlon is the difference between the cost for both. This is one that kind of gets forgotten about, but honestly is really important. A half marathon is honestly one of the cheapest endurance events you can do. If you're doing a half marathon, all you really need is some running shoes and the race entry fee. Maybe you can get a watch, but that's all you really need at the minimum. Your total cost for the half marathon could be realistically just a few $100 with the race entry fee and the shoes. Now in a triathlon, that's where the biggest difference is, I would say. You can get out of control pretty fast. There's 3 different disciplines, so you gotta have goggles, cap, at least swim trunks if you're not gonna wear a tri-suit, just at the minimum. And then in the bike, you have your bike bib with your bike itself, helmet, cleats, pump, water bottles, electrolytes. In most cases, you usually need some sort of bike maintenance and repair stuff because things happen all the time when you're training. It just goes on. And then obviously the same thing for the running. You just need shoes, a watch if you like it, and that's about all you need for the run. That's all before you even buy the entry fee to do the race. Even on a budget setup, you are usually spending around at least $1,000. And there's things you even forget about. You got to pay for pool memberships, traveling with your bike, repairs for your bike. You can kind of see the trend here that the bike is probably the most expensive part. So yeah, half marathon, pretty simple, affordable. Triathlon, much more of a financial commitment. You don't need the most expensive gear for the triathlon, but it's pretty easy that you can convince yourself to get it. Let's talk about the race day experience. A half marathon is honestly brutally simple. You start running, and for about the next 2 hours, you're running straight line, up some hills, down some hills, zigzagging left and right. No breaks, no stops, no switching muscles. There's really nowhere to hide. If your pace is off too early in the race, it's going to cost you at the end, But overall, it's about a 2-hour run, and you grind it out until you're there at the finish line. Now for the triathlon, you're doing the 3 events: the swim, the bike, and the run. The swim is pretty chaotic. The bike, honestly, can be kind of scenic and nice at times to relax. Obviously, you're grinding out there, your legs are pushing itself and they're burning, but it's just a different beast. And then the run, you've already completed those 2 events, and you're just kind of enjoying the scenic run after putting in all that work in the other events. A nice part about the race and the triathlon is you get that little mental reset in between each event. You finish the swim and you're in transition to get on the bike, and you get to reset yourself. Okay, swim's done, now I just got a bike, and then you get another reset, you finish the bike, you get ready for the run. All right, just the run, and then I'm done. It's nice, and I like the fact that you're not doing the same motion the whole time, that you get to switch it up and change up which muscle groups you're using, which kind of mental state you got to hit, because some people prefer the swim over the bike, some people prefer the run over the swim. It's different for everybody. So you get strong points and weak points, and you know, oh, I just got to push through, and then I'm onto something I'm better at. There was also a big difference in the atmosphere of both events. The triathlon I did was pretty small, and honestly, it felt super personal. It was at the place I used to work at, so I saw old coworkers. I even saw people I work with now who were there doing the event, and old friends watching. At the race, everyone who's participating is kind of trying to figure it out together. In transition, everyone's kind of quiet, calm, just trying to get to the next point and keep going in the race. A lot of the race for the triathlon is pretty secluded, so you're out there riding miles on the bike by yourself, not seeing a single person, or running through neighborhoods, through trails, with no one around you. It didn't really feel like a big citywide group event. It felt like just a small, close-knit community taking on a challenge together. Now compared to the OC half marathon that I did, that was a huge event, almost the total opposite. Thousands of people, road closures all across Orange County, music blasting at the start, people passing you with huge speakers, thousands of people lined the road. At the start line, you're packed shoulder to shoulder as everyone's getting ready to go. And when the race starts, it's just a wave of energy. Everyone's building off each other, and you're running for 13 miles, having the best time, music blasting. It's great. When you're running the race, you don't feel alone at all. I was able to run with some friends. We had the best time together. There's always someone next to you, someone passing you, you're passing someone, you're cheering someone on, they're cheering you on. It's amazing. But there's a trade-off between the both. The half marathon probably has more energy, it's more electric, but the triathlon, you're digging deep, you're focused on yourself, you're trying to push yourself every step of the way. And honestly, it really comes down to what you like. If you want high energy, big crowds, race day adrenaline, the half marathon is perfect. It was a great experience. But if you want more personal, almost a little more community feel, and then during the race, you're locked in on yourself, no music, and you're racing in your head, pushing yourself to the next step, that's where the triathlon's perfect too. The question you probably want to know is what's actually harder? Physically, I'd say the half marathon is more physically demanding. It was harder on my knees, my hips. I was much more sore the next day and the day after that compared to the triathlon. It's nonstop impact and you're running for 2.5 hours. But in terms of overall, I would say the triathlon is more difficult. I wouldn't say it's harder because of the race, but because of everything that goes into it. The training for 3 different events, the time commitment, the learning curve to understand how to properly use the bike, how to swim effectively, and especially how to transition from each event to the next. It just can be a lot more to handle. So what should you do? If you're someone who likes simplicity, I would recommend doing the half marathon. You commit 3 to 4 days a week to train, to run. You focus on one discipline, hit it hard, you'll be ready to do that race. But if you get bored easily or want a different kind of challenge, I think a triathlon would be great. It's more engaging, you get to focus on different disciplines and train your body in different ways to be effective at completing a different kind of race. For me, my experience, the half marathon was more painful, but the triathlon was probably more difficult. I honestly think if you can, everyone should try at least one of each if they can, because they test you in different ways and push you to your limits. So if you had to pick, which one are you gonna do? You're gonna do a running event, even if you start small. Just start with a mile, a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon. If you've done a full marathon, all those are incredible. Or you're gonna do a triathlon, a sprint triathlon, an Olympic triathlon, a half Ironman, a full Ironman. I encourage you to try one of those. Try something out, push yourself, get outside, have fun while doing it.